On the one side, we have an extremist Labour Party led by a doomed leader who will never win an election. On the other, a government enacting hard Brexit, when over 3/4 of MPs supported Remain. In the middle, 16 million unrepresented voters, including yours truly, and a huge gap in the market. Time that MPs on both sides located their backbones and formed a mainstream party that stands for what I stand for: Europe, democracy, civil rights, the environment, internationalism. I know, breaking up is hard to do, and it's high risk, low reward. Our voting system means that even with money and public support, there's no guarantee a new party will get a single MP into Parliament. But radical action is needed now more than ever. So I call on Ed Balls, Nicky Morgan, Ken Clarke, Nick Clegg and George Osborne to lead the charge. Take the plunge, set up our new party, launch the European Democrats, and if they don't organise it, maybe I will. It's time for us to have a voice again.
You know, I like the sound of it. I want it to work, but it won't work. It just will not work because there is no such thing as centre. You're either right-leaning or you're left-leaning.
It's just not true,
It
Carol.
is true. There is no... It's wishy-washy to be in the middle. What do you stand for? What does centre mean to you? I don't understand.
Centre?
Yeah.
What do you mean? It means not having a hard right of the Tory party, the Eurosceptics, driving us off a cliff
But you're left-leaning.
into no man's land out of Europe.
But you are
and on
left-leaning.
the hard...
How can you
Am
suddenly
I
become...
left-leaning?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I'm
I think
completely
she's
centre-ground.
She's only left-leaning to you.
To you?
Because you're...
Yeah, because
you're
you're way to right.
bone in your body.
You said left.
I'm left-wing. Right, that is news to my
You are.
family.
I
That's news
didn't
to the
say you were
world.
left-leaning. I said you were left-leaning, and everybody is either right or left-leaning. I don't believe there's anything in the middle. But you know, you were talking about the Labour Party there. We don't need any more parties. We need to rebuild the once great Labour Party. The Labour Party that changed the face of this country, that changed everything for people in this country. I don't believe we need another party. And I know that Tony Blair mooted last month that he wanted to start a centre party. Who's going to vote for that? No one's going to vote for Tony Blair.
Well, if it doesn't, if it's there, if they build it, people may come,
well, you
Carol.
said that, but you know, when the Social Democrats started in was it 1981?
But the SDP.
The Social
Gang of
Democrats.
Four,
Big Gang of Four.
Yes, the Gang of Four.
Yeah,
Shirley Williams.
of course.
Yeah, and they were very respected politicians. There were some of the ones you just mentioned there aren't who you want to start this party.
But what
aren't
was
terribly
the
well
different?
respected.
What was what they were? It was a cross-bench party. It's going to take
Precisely.
people who don't like what's going on across the board to form a centre-ground party to represent the
Why would people leave
unrepresented.
parties they support? Why would a Labour person leave a
Because
Labour?
these parties no longer
Because they speak
stand
for
them.
But I mean, the Gang of Four actually blew it, really, for the later years, because actually every MP you meet who you talk about doing something like this says, oh, well, look what happened to the Social Democrats. I mean, I agree with you entirely. I think there's a bunch of Labour MPs who should have the guts to say, we're not supporting you, Corbyn, or the people alongside you any longer. We're going to set up a separate party. We are the majority opposition.
Yeah.
We'd get the money, we'd get the support. You could then bring others into it. I agree with you entirely. But somehow, I mean, and they don't all agree about everything, you're right, but there isn't just a left and a right. I mean, the biggest issue of the day is Europe, without any doubt at all, and there's a party to be formed around staying in Europe.
And who's going to lead?
Michelle, hold on.
What about the Lib Dems? What do they stand
Yeah,
for?
I knew you were going to talk about the Lib
That's the
Dems.
problem. What do they stand for?
They do.
No, Michelle,
But they've got an opportunity. Why don't they sort themselves out and take that position?
You have put the finger on the floor in my argument, which is they're always already supposedly a centre-ground party, but they haven't sort of lit anyone's fire.
Well, I think the problem with the Lib Dems is, you know, had Nick Clegg not resigned, now would have been the time for the Lib Dems to really come into their own. And I just don't think they've got the leader that can actually do that and do what you're suggesting. For me, Rachel, I agree with you. You know, I think there is a huge wave of people that are somehow in the sort of political wilderness and don't have a party that speaks for them. I've been a supporter of the Labour Party for over 20 years. Jeremy Corbyn does not speak for me. Jeremy Corbyn does not speak for many people like you, Greg, who have supported the party through all of the tough times, as well as the good, you know, the Blair years when we were in power. And my only concern is I think the people that you're suggesting just don't have enough in common.
Yeah.
That's my only problem. So I agree we need another party that speaks for people who are not being represented by the mainstream parties. But I don't know if the politicians you mention are the ones to do it.
But also, because we have a first-past-the-post system,
Yes.
you could get your new party could get millions of votes
Yeah,
and never get a seat in
yeah.
and it takes a long time to establish a party.
There's another problem, which is that we could see coming up in by-elections that, in fact, what we have is the loss of dominance of the two mainstream parties, Labour and Tory. We're going to have four-way contests from now on, which are UKIP, the Lib Dems, Tory and Labour. So actually the space for another party to come in and make and gain any presence is going to be very limited. But what I want to talk about...
What does it mean?
What it means...
Well, I think the centre...
I don't understand why you can be in the centre. You're centre-right or centre-left.
No, but for many years, the centre worked, Carol.
It's as if you've forgotten the whole of the politics since 1997 until 2016.
In America, it worked here.
Okay, so New Labour, centre-left. Now, Blair says he wants to launch this new centre party to combat populist forces. Who's he talking about? How insulting. Populist forces are working-class people who've been slated during Brexit, by the way, for being populist.
No.
That's a term of abuse now for people.
It's not.
Yes,
it's not.
I didn't think he was
the Liberal left
party. I thought he was just launching some kind of organisation to look into what's been driving.
To creating the new wave of leaders, which I think is a great idea.
Can I just ask you, though, what would you want the primary objective of this new party to be? Are you trying to...
I'd vote for you. I'd vote for
June
you.
and I have a secret and cunning plan on this one. We're going to, in our new European Democratic Party,
Exactly.
we're going to make sure that MPs have another look at what the New Deal is and possibly, very possibly, have a third way, which is not just centre ground party, but stay in Europe.
But you're beginning to see... But you are beginning to see
outrageous
the impact of the referendum result.
Yeah.
Because you're beginning to see it through inflation. Yeah. And I think in the next 12 months, you will be an awful lot of people saying, hang on, look what's happened to my fuel bills.
Yeah.
Look what's happened to my food bills.
Food bills.
Food's going up 10%.
How far is inflation going to go, Greg? Everyone keeps trying to talk up inflation, but it's not going up. It's like 1.8.
Well, it's the highest level since 2014.
It's 1.8.
But in real terms,
it could well get up to 3-4% next year.
But we are...
So when it gets up to 3-4%, you'll accept my argument, will you? Because I think that's a pretty firm bet.
Not for going back into the European
Michelle,
Union.
what are you saying?
We're Brexiting, and it's kind of like what we're having is let's take it to the court. Oh, let's take it back to the court. Let's have a referendum. Let's have another vote. Let's have and all of that's failed. So I know what we'll do. We'll create another political party. That'll do it.
Yeah.
Come on.
Sneaky.
No, but you've got to accept that the Labour... I mean, if, say the Labour Party lose the two by-elections...
Oh, goodness.
Which there must be a good chance. Say they lose the two by-elections, what does that mean for the Labour Party?
It means they've got to dump Corbyn and get a proper leader who's going to bring the Labour Party back to what it was.
They won't do that because that's not who's in control.
No.
Well, who is in control are actually the membership who are way to the left of what you would call a proper leader.
The party.
Fine, some of them don't care.
Greg, do you think that if Labour did implode, which I think there's a huge will for Labour not to implode, but would there be real chance for another party to rise like a phoenix from the ashes?
I think there is, but we have this very strange electoral system, which is first past the post. Go back, as I did a couple of weeks ago, back to 1951, 97% voted Labour or Tory. We're now at 60-odd%. Yeah. And yet they've got no more representation. That other 40% have got no representation because of the ridiculous system we've got for electing MPs.
It's very odd, this way that MPs are associated with their party, which I think that what I've put forward, I'm afraid, I don't think is really a runner, sad though I am to admit it, because look what happened in America. Trump wasn't even a Republican, but when he decided to become a Republican, the party machine embraced him and then got behind him and he won. And so therefore, the party machinery in this country is so well established, and also the tribal loyalty so well established.
But I think Greg's idea is what needs to happen. I think the Labour MPs need to get some backbone and actually form the official opposition, and they can easily.
They haven't got the guts to do it. Is the truth?
But they haven't. They haven't
and it's infuriating.
And they won't actually do it anyway. Enough of that. Enough of trying to get to stay in.